Hi, this is Erica Merrill, and I'm the founder of Perfect Legal Video. I'm very excited to have with us today Attorney Nicole Reeves Lavallee, and she owns a family and real estate law firm in the Worcester area. Very excited about today's topic. Uh, Today's topic is what when do you know when to fire your attorney and find a new one? I so many people, Nicole, I feel like they just assume that if you're an attorney, you're going to be a good attorney. I mean, do you feel like that's a fair assumption?
I think people at least expect that. I think they believe that. And I think the problem is sometimes they don't realize that they really have a dud until it's too late. And then it's like, oh my God, wait, what do you mean? My attorney didn't tell me about this. And I didn't know about that. And so you're running these a lot of problems. So hopefully, at least you can know what to expect and what to look for.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I know that I my sister had an attorney that it was like a year and a half later apparently helped write some of the laws in the law book for where she was, and he was just too big and too busy, and there were too many people working for him. He wasn't keeping track, and they were charging a lot of money. And she was just never able to get stuff to move forward in her case. And they always seem to be doing everything last minute. Have you seen stuff like that go on?
They have. And I mean, obviously, again, most of us as attorneys know how to work under pressure. So, you got to take a little bit of that with a grain of salt. Where a lot of times we're getting records at the 11th hour. We're reviewing, financial statements that we just got in the hallway 10 minutes ago. So there's a little bit of that we're always going to have. And then there's obviously the unpreparedness that you just walk into the court and the attorney's fumbling and 1 second, Your Honor, and we're trying to find that right piece of paper, and you don't really know, and you're like, the kids, how old are your kids? And it's those things that you really kind of go, wait a minute, what are you doing? Do you not know my case? And that's really kind of a standoff thing where you go, something's going on.
I mean, honestly, I feel like from the very beginning, if people are asking you, I feel like likes the those are the right questions. They're pointing out things that you never knew. They seem to have a good strategy. I mean, I'm not sure. That's just as a layperson. I'm not an attorney. I work with a lot of attorneys. So when I have to use an attorney for the first time, those were some of the things that made me feel comfortable about you. What can you say in the first meeting that like would really help people?
I think it's about, them walking out and at least understanding what the structure is. First and foremost, who should I speak with at your office? Is it you? Is it your paralegal? Is it your front end office? Who's the person that's going to get to you, being the attorney, so that I can get these questions answered? Because all too often, I think one of the two things is either one, you bombard the attorney with 100 million things, and then you go, well, why are they ignoring me? Or two, you were directed to talk to Sally at the office, who's the paralegal who's assigned to the case, but you're actually directing it to Michelle, who has a different role there. So again, first and foremost, figure out from that first appointment who you should be directing communications to. What method of communication works best for them? Does it work with their portal, the attorney's portal? Does it work with email? Does it work with text? Does it work by picking up the phone? So kind of know that. I think that's a big thing. And if it's something that you're like, hey, all I do is text, I've never looked at my phone. It's like a brick. Otherwise, I don't do anything with it. Email, why would I look at emails? Then you need to convey that information to the attorney's office as well, because again, they might be communicating with you in a method that you're not communicating back with them. And then it appears that there's a problem. And there is. The problem is the two of you are on different pages, and there is no right or wrong reason. It's just that you need to be on the same page. So I think you walk out of there with a game plan as to what documents I'm going to need to get to for the attorney. What's the best method of communication? Who's the best person to communicate? Those are three very easy things that anyone can do walking out of their first appointment with their attorney.
I mean, I think that's true. The other thing that really surprised me and that I was very happy that you made me aware of, because, all I have to go on is other people's cases and what I see on TV. Uh, like most people, when I first came in, And it was just really like, how long is this going to take? Will we be done by next week? We're amiable. It's going to be done in a month, right? That's what they say. And then also how much it costs to fight over certain issues. That's surprising. And then the third thing that I was shocked by is how little I knew of the questions that you asked. I mean, financially, I mean, sometimes when families are divided in what they do, one might pay certain bills, the other one pays the other bills. I don't know if the mortgage is being paid or not. Like a lot of people are very unpleasantly surprised to find out that their house is going to go bankrupt. I mean, that was not my case, but I mean, you do hear about this stuff. So I loved how honest you were with that instead of like trying to like, you know, some of these attorneys are just trying to land a new case and they'll tell you anything.
And I think that's exactly it. I mean, my whole thing is, guess what? You're not going to be aggravated with me if I tell you a divorce has a 14-month track. And realistically, depending on what court you're in, plan on at least 2 years. In some courts, and depending on who you have as judge, maybe it's 3 years. So I'm going to set that expectation. I'm going to tell you that a modification has an 8-month track, but realistically, again, probably about a year to a year and a half. On a contempt, you're going to be done maybe in 2 months, unless it's something that we want to continue to review. So I'm going to set that expectation at that very first meeting, because guess what? That's a number one complaint for clients. And they're going, my attorney didn't talk to me. What do they talk about? Well, I thought it was going to be done because in the movie it's done in a half hour. Amazing. The other thing is obviously the money. The money's an all important thing. I mean, the reality is we need to get paid for our services, and you want to get it done as quickly as possible. Problem is, quickly doesn't necessarily mean proficient. So again, I like to set that expectation that, the going rate for a divorce right now with your particular situation is X. And obviously, X is going to be based off of the circumstances and what information you tell me. And I will also preface it with saying, yes, but if your ex is a narcissist or is a complete jerk, or there's, all these other issues, that's going to run up the cost. I can give you a ballpark, but it's a ballpark. And that's why I like to set that expectation so that you know. The other part is that a lot of attorneys don't regularly bill. So if you're not regularly billing, you're going la 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 la. You get a bill 1 month and you go, oh my God, that was $6,000 in 1 month. What did they do? Because remember, we're not talking to you about every single thing. We're talking to you about things that we need to do. We need to get mandatory discovery. We need to send out mandatory discovery. We need to, call the court regarding court hearings. We need to start drafting pleadings. And all of this stuff is what we're doing behind the scenes. And you're just going, but we didn't go to court. But there's a lot of paperwork. And when I hand you the stack going, this is your file now, you'll know that I actually did that paperwork. So it's one of those things that, when you're doing regular billing, at least you can see, oh, this is where it went. And usually the very first month, even though I tell clients this, they want to talk to me a lot. And then they get the bill and then they stop talking to me as much because they realize that there's a cost to that. And, when you want to tell me the same thing 25 times, I've already written it down. Know full well that whether you're talking to my office or you're talking to me, we're taking down those notes. We're writing that information down. When it's pertinent, we'll bring it up. So when you're having that conversation with me multiple times, it's at your detriment.
Go see your therapist, right?
Absolutely.
So I found it very interesting when we were talking about this. Just like, what are some of the things that you've seen that have gone too far? And I mean, I know we've talked in the past about, hey, you can change attorneys, but then it's going to be about whether, you're too far gone for another attorney to catch up and really get what's going on. And then also trying to find someone to take you on, because I've heard that if somebody has a new attorney every 6 to 12 months, they're probably not the client that you want. I mean, is that true?
It is true. It certainly has the appearance. I mean, again, we're going to look at, okay, well, who is your attorney? And what are you saying about your attorney? Oh, that attorney never got back to me. Are you joking? I talk to him every single day. There's people that I'm going to know and I'm going to go, no, it's not true. If you're not telling me the truth in this meeting, I don't want you as a client. So there is a little bit of that, but it's also going to be like, oh yeah, that's attorney kind of lazy. Like I get it. So we can kind of gauge, because again, we see this. We see this on the end of, is the other attorney giving us the pretrial memos and the financial statements timely? Are they, on the ball when a discovery is due? Are they making those phone calls? Are they following up with calls to us? So we base it based off of what we see with dealing with other clients. Now, obviously, it's not specific to your case, but we can kind of gauge, like, we have an active case with them. We had a case with them 2 months ago. So certainly we're going to have our own opinion. But it really boils down to, what is it going to look like for you? Is it something that you're just going, my attorney's belittling me? Everything I do is wrong. It doesn't matter what I give them. They just want to harass me and they want to run up my bill. There's attorneys that do that, or there's attorneys that literally get in your face and scream at somebody. And I don't understand how clients stay with them. And I've actually wanted to crawl under a desk when I was watching them do that to somebody. And I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, just like, I'm trying to settle this case and you're being so mean to your client. Because, I can tell my client very sternly that they're going to lose, but I don't need to belittle somebody. So I think there's a little bit of that. And again, us attorneys are going to know who does that and who behaves like that. So I think, obviously, if you're in an uncomfortable situation, or if your attorney really isn't listening to you and, they think you're crazy. I mean, sometimes we think our clients are crazy. Sometimes they are. But the reality is, obviously, if your client, if your attorney isn't believing what the client is saying, then that's a time for you to move. Because the reality is, regardless of whether you're right or the attorney's right, you need somebody who's going to be able to zealously represent you. And when they're not believing you, there's no way that they can zealously represent. They can make an effort, but it's not going to be a zealous representation.
I mean, that's a really good point. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, because this seems like a great thing if you are not part of, the court of law. You're not around law. You don't know what goes on in the courts and who are the players. But you get these people that just started out, and they are taking any and every kind of case they can. They are going to settle a slip and fall, and then they're going to take your accident that you get, your rear ender that you just got in, and then they're going to help you with your divorce, and they might help you with your will, and then they might help you sell your house, and then they might have, like, I know there are big law firms that have like different divisions for all these different types of law, but the way law changes, especially in family, there's no way they can keep up with this. I don't know. I'm sure you've seen this before. It sounds good.
I think we've all been the new attorney at some point. The question is whether or not you were the new attorney that had a boss that cared, that had a boss that listened. And the problem is, you hiring that person, you don't necessarily know, unless it's a bigger firm, then you hope that somebody's going to be overseeing them in some fashion. But you don't know. You guess, maybe the young attorney tells you, oh yeah, my boss reviews all of my documentation. Is it truthful? I don't know. Hopefully it is. But I think that's the thing, is that you, as a young attorney, without having a backbone of an experienced attorney, they're going to do okay. They're going to get you through it. But there's going to be that muddy area, and there's going to be that stuff that you're going to just slop in and you can't get out of. And you don't know that it's a bad thing until it's too late. It's really different from a seasoned attorney perspective. Is we kill everyone off. We give everyone worst case scenarios all the time. And, it's one of those things, because the judge will come to you and go, well, counsel, you said that wife's going to refinance this house. Well, what happens if wife can't refinance? Well, then we're going to sell it. Okay, well, how are we going to how are we going to determine a broker? Okay, well, we're going to pick a broker. We're going to agree on a broker. What if we don't agree on a broker? Well, then we're going to have, each of them are going to have a broker, and their brokers are going to pick the other broker. Okay, so now we have 3 brokers. Okay, got it. And then when we do that, what are we going to do about list price? um, we're going to agree. Well, what if we don't agree? Well, we're going to put language in there that says they have to agree. What about repairs? And so we go through all of these steps, and I can go through like 50 more questions just to get to the conclusion of how we sold the house. Then I have to go to, well, we sold the house, but it's underwater. Now who's responsible for the deficiency? Because it's always who's going to get the surplus and who's going to get the net profit. Now, what if there's a deficiency counsel? Well, there's 100,000 in equity. Yeah, but we're not selling it for 6 months and the market may go down. So this is how we become seasoned attorneys, because we've had the judge ask us these questions. We go, oh. So now in our mind, we're doing what possible scenario, if the sky is falling today, and if, then what? And so that's how you become seasoned, so that you can come with that conclusion. So yeah, a new attorney is going to be muddy through that water, and they're going to get you the end game, but they're going to miss all those what ifs. And it's great as long as the what ifs don't come into play, because when the what ifs come into play, that's when you're going to come to a seasoned attorney and they're going to say, well, what do I do? And I go, I'm sorry, it's not written in an agreement. There's no language. But my other attorney didn't tell me about it. I get that. So now we're trying to fix the problem. But, and I'm like, all I can do is try to fix it, because there's not a court order on it. So it becomes a little bit of a problem.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Hey, we've all been new on the job. We learn. And some of the places are that are smaller, that are like maybe just one person and one lawyer, one paralegal. They prioritize someone else over you. You might have them, and then all of a sudden, they're everyone that has owned their own business knows you can't get reliable help all the time. And now they're working 80 hours, 100 hours a week, and they're trying to get to you, but they're also trying to keep the revenue coming in. So I mean, there are times that you don't know when it happens, but you start seeing it in the results of your communication, and maybe they're missing things that later on someone says to them, well, why didn't you just ask for this thing? And I'm not going to protect you. She's like, well, what is that? My lawyer should have known, but they probably did know. They were just very, very busy and overworked.
Absolutely. And, I mean, we all strive to be perfect all the time. I'm not. My office isn't, and that's the problem. Sometimes it's just a matter of, Nicole, I noticed a change in the office, and I'm not getting an answer right away, and what's going on? And it's just that quick phone call of, hey, I'm doing a check-in on myself because I don't know what the hell you're doing on my case. Have that conversation with the attorney, because maybe it is the attorney's going to go, I'm sorry, my wife got sick and I really have been focused on that, and I'm sorry, I'll get to it. I'll work on your case. Or maybe it's something, that they've just taken on too many cases. Maybe it's that they have a malpractice case that you don't know about going on. I mean, there's a lot of things that could be going on, or it could be something that was just like, oh, I've been waiting for this discovery from the other side, so there was nothing to report. So it could be something very simple, but get the attorney's attention at some point and have a sit down conversation and go, what is going on? Because you don't want to make that move and fire your attorney if it is something that you're just waiting on the other side for and there's nothing to report. Because again, we don't like to waste your bill and run up your fees for no reason. And sometimes you ask it 25 times and sometimes it's not relevant, and we just feel bad going, no update, no update, because we have to charge you for that.
Oh yeah, no, that's absolutely true. There's half the time you're waiting on the other side to get their stuff. Even though they have a deadline, sometimes they don't get your stuff. And so there's nothing that you can do about, unless you go to that person's house and say, "Hey, where's your stuff?" And you're not allowed to do that. So I mean, that's really good to mention. One thing I really love about your office, and there are many, many things, is that you do seem to, because of the years you've been doing this, you have checklists for different situations. And, case in point, putting a will together. We've touched on this before, but I could not believe the if this, then that list that you had. And, you have it for your family law. And, I know you have it for real estate, just because you are very experienced, and you've seen all these things happen, and so it's less likely that you're going to miss something because you actually have taken the time to put a process and a strategy in place. How important is that?
It's crucial. I mean, the reality is, like I said, if you don't have it, you don't know that it's a problem until it's a problem. And then it's too late of a problem and something that you can't necessarily fix. So, it is a developed skill unequivocally. And I will tell you that I do inspect everything that my newer attorneys do because they're learning, and I do that every time. So what if this? Um, oh yeah, yeah. Let's add that in. And those are things that, again, as an attorney, you're going to learn. So I think it's just one of those things that you really want to kind of do that yourself. You're not going to come up with all the things, but what if? What if the world comes crashing down tomorrow? How are you going to address it? Think about it, because it is something that's important, and sometimes it's we don't know on our end your family dynamic. We don't know what that looks like. So sometimes even when we're asking the questions, we're missing something crucial because you're going, oh, well, what about the the Rolex that we have? No one told me there was a Rolex. How am I supposed to know to include a Rolex in allocation of funds if I didn't know it existed? So, there's things that I'm going to ask for, and I say jewelry or collectibles. I don't say watches. So again, in your mind, if you're not equating that to one of those items, I'm not asking the right question because I don't know, and you're not giving me the right answer. So I'm kind of scrambling at the 11th hour.
And that's never fun. It's not fun. Don't put poor Nicole through that. Jeez. So I mean, this is all very good information. I would absolutely, I can't recommend you and your team enough. You have a good team, you give them good instructions, and of course, there's new people here and there, but they all seem to have the checklist down, and they all follow up, and they know what they're supposed to do. I mean, is everyone perfect? No. Do people have bad days? Yeah, but in general, there's always follow up. When there's something crucial that's about to happen. If you're going to court next week, if I'm going to court next week, I know I'm going to hear from several of your team members to get, the financial document together for court, or they might ask me some questions, of things that they need answered in order to, get a document over to the court that explains the situation. It's it's good to know that I have a team. I could never do this without you. And so, if anyone out there is looking for someone who can help out in their family court matters, absolutely give Nicole and her team a call. And if you have questions about your current attorney, I mean, it may not be that they're doing anything wrong, but maybe there are things that could improve, and everybody wants the best outcome that they can get. And so it might be worth having a conversation with another attorney, just to see, um, if there are any improvements, and to find out, get a second opinion.
Absolutely. And I think if it's nothing else, it's just a matter of having that conversation with your own attorney and going, I don't understand. Sometimes we just go off on tangents and say blah, 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 blah. And you're going, what? And you feel stupid because you have no idea what your attorney's talking about. Don't feel that way. I mean, we try to come to your level and use words that you're going to understand, but sometimes even that is words that we just do it every day of our life. So, why wouldn't you know it? One of the things is, oh, we're going to do a colloquy. Okay. About what? What's that even mean? And it's just a simple thing. If the judge is going to ask us a series of questions and we're going to respond to them. But again, if we're using some word that you're not familiar with because it's just not necessarily in your vocabulary, why would we need to know that? Ask the attorney, because all too often, like I said, we just go into lawyer mode and forget that you may not know what we're talking about.
Heck, even some of the things that you're talking about mean something different in layman's terms than they do in court terms. I mean, I'm sure that happens all the time.
Yeah, I think the biggest one that I can say, and I know it frustrates my clients and I try never to do it, is when I say, somebody says sister counsel or brother counsel, and they walk out of the courtroom and they're so angry with you. And I'm like, what did I just do? Why didn't you tell me that was your brother? Or why didn't you tell me that was your sister? I'm like, no, 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 no. Sister, brother counsel of the court. That just means we're colleagues. But when you're saying it to the judge knows exactly what you're talking about, but your client will get very angry. So again, it's those types of things that have that conversation. It could be something just that innocent. And that's why I always go opposing counsel, because I don't want to have that conversation. But guess what? The other party might say it about me. So just be aware of things like that.
That is funny when they say that. And I feel like there are certain little things that are left over from the olden days of law, and that's probably one of them.
Absolutely.
So, the last question I have is do you have any examples of when it's gone too far? I mean, I know there are people out there that they ignore the red flags. They ignore red flags when they're dating. They ignore red flags when they're getting into business with someone. They ignore red flags when they're buying an automobile. I mean, there are red flags out there, and there are some people that just they want to trust people or they want to trust themselves. Uh, so things go too far. Do you have any stories or examples of that situation?
I think, I'm sure there's lots of examples. I think the biggest thing is, again, timing. Don't wait until my trial is 2 weeks down the road and I haven't heard from my attorney in the last 2 months. As you said, I'm preparing financial statements a week or 2 weeks in advance. So if things are off, check. Don't just assume, well, you're taking care of things. Because yes, things happen behind the scenes, but a lot of times things happen because I need your help. I need your help to tell me what it is you're looking for. I think I know what you're looking for, but that doesn't mean your opinion hasn't changed since we last spoke. I don't know what your financial statement is today. Maybe even if you're a W-2 employee, great, but I don't know what's in your bank account today versus what was in your bank account 6 months ago. So again, as a court date is approaching, you should always be looking out to, is my attorney being receptive to me? Are they communicating? Because those are the red flags that are going to come up and go. If you put your head in the sand, guess what? You're going to be stuck with either a dud attorney or an attorney that doesn't care or an attorney that isn't prepared or, God forbid, an attorney that's just going to throw you under the bus.
Well, that last scenario is terrible. All of them are. So, well, that's good. I mean, I think whether it works or not, like with you and your clients, I absolutely can say that you absolutely care, and you care about children, and you care about people and their lives, and you know how much this can affect someone's life, and it really shows in your work. So we really appreciate you, and thank you so much for coming on the show today and helping us spot those red flags.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thanks again.